My name is Dr. Catherine Phillips, Chief Medical Examiner, County Medical Examiner's Office. 16 years in forensic pathology, board certified, fellowship trained in neuropathology. I've examined over 6,000 bodies, testified in hundreds of criminal cases. I've seen decomposition, trauma, disease in every conceivable form. Nothing prepared me for what happened on October 15, 2019. This is the case that made me question everything I thought I knew about death. The body arrived at 3:47 a.m. Male, approximately 35 years old, discovered in Riverside Park with massive blunt force trauma to the skull. Detective Martinez called it a clear homicide. The victim had been dead for at least 6 hours, based on rigor mortis and liver temperature. Standard protocol required immediate autopsy, given the criminal nature. I'd performed similar examinations countless times. This should have been routine. Initial external examination revealed devastating head injuries. The left temporal bone was fractured, brain matter visible through scalp lacerations. Both pupils were fixed and dilated. No pulse, no respiration, no reflexes. Core temperature had dropped to 89 degrees Fahrenheit. Every medical indicator confirmed death. I documented 23 separate injuries consistent with repeated strikes from a blunt instrument, likely a baseball bat or similar weapon. The victim's identification read, Stephen Foster, age 34, local construction worker. No known medical conditions, no medications found at the scene. His emergency contact was listed as Emma Foster with a local phone number. Standard procedure required notifying next of kin before beginning the autopsy. I instructed my assistant, Tom, to contact the police liaison while I prepared for the examination. At 4:15 a.m., I made the first incision. The Y-shaped cut proceeded normally from shoulders to sternum, then down to the pubic bone. No bleeding, as expected in a deceased individual. The chest cavity opened to reveal normal organ positioning. Heart weighed 340 grams, slightly enlarged but within normal parameters. Lungs showed mild congestion, consistent with terminal cardiovascular collapse. Everything appeared medically standard for a trauma victim. As I prepared to examine the brain, removing the skull cap with the bone saw, something unprecedented occurred. The body's right hand twitched, not muscle spasm or cadaveric movement, a deliberate motion. Tom noticed it too, his face paling. Dr. Phillips, did you see that? I had. 16 years of experience told me this was impossible. Dead tissue doesn't contract voluntarily, but I'd witnessed it clearly. I checked vital signs again. No pulse at the carotid artery, no heart sounds on auscultation. Pupils remained fixed and dilated. Body temperature had dropped another degree. Every medical assessment confirmed death, yet the twitching continued, now involving both hands. I documented the observation in my notes, uncertain how to classify such an anomaly. Medical literature contained no precedent for voluntary movement post-mortem. The impossible became surreal at 4:32 a.m. when Stephen Foster opened his eyes. Not the vacant stare of the recently deceased, but focused, aware movement. His pupils constricted in response to the fluorescent lights above the examination table. He turned his head toward me, brain matter still visible through his fractured skull. "Doctor," he whispered, voice barely audible but unmistakably conscious. I nearly dropped my scalpel. Tom backed against the wall, stammering about calling security. I approached the table cautiously. "Mr. Foster?" I ventured. His lips moved again. "Yes, I'm Stephen Foster. I was murdered at 9:47 p.m. last night by someone I trusted." His voice grew stronger despite the massive head trauma that should have rendered him immediately unconscious. The medical impossibility of his consciousness while maintaining all other indicators of death defied explanation. I performed rapid neurological assessments. His responses were appropriate and coherent despite visible brain damage. He could move his fingers on command, answered orientation questions correctly, demonstrated clear memory of recent events. Yet he remained clinically dead by every measurable standard. No pulse, no respiration, fixed body temperature, no reflexes, except those he consciously controlled. The contradiction challenged everything I understood about human biology. How is this possible? I asked, more to myself than to him. Stephen's damaged face attempted what might have been a smile. I don't know, Doctor. I only know that I'm still here, still aware, despite what happened to my body. I can feel that I'm dead, but my mind, my consciousness persists. I have something important to tell you about my murder. Against all protocols, I found myself conducting an interview with a deceased victim. Stephen described his attack in detail. Ambushed while leaving work, struck repeatedly with a metal pipe by someone wearing dark clothing. He provided specific details about his attacker's appearance, mannerisms, even fragments of conversation. Information that could be crucial for the police investigation, coming from an impossible source. I contacted Detective Martinez, despite the unprecedented nature of the situation. How do you explain that the murder victim is conscious and providing testimony? Martinez arrived at 5:20 a.m., initially skeptical until he witnessed Stephen speaking coherently while displaying obvious signs of death. Even seasoned homicide investigators have limits to what they can rationalize. Martinez recorded Stephen's statement with visible discomfort. Stephen's account implicated his business partner, Marcus Williams, no relation to me despite the shared surname. They'd argued about missing company funds. Marcus had followed him from work, attacked him in the park. Stephen provided details only the victim could know. The specific threats made during the assault, the location where the murder weapon was discarded, even Marcus's confession of embezzling their construction company's payroll funds. Police verification confirmed Stephen's impossible testimony. Marcus Williams was arrested at his home. The blood-stained pipe found exactly where Stephen indicated. Marcus's financial records revealed the embezzlement. The case built itself around information from a man who was medically, legally, and by all scientific understanding, dead. Yet his consciousness persisted with perfect clarity and accuracy. Dr. Elizabeth Reeves, my department chief, arrived at 6:30 a.m. after my urgent call. Beth had 30 years of forensic experience, had seen every conceivable anomaly. She examined Stephen herself, confirming all my findings. Dead by every medical standard, yet conscious and communicative. "Catherine," she whispered, "this is impossible. We need to document everything meticulously. No one will believe this without perfect records." We conducted extensive testing over the following hours. EEG showed no brainwave activity despite Stephen's obvious consciousness. Blood work revealed biochemistry consistent with death, elevated potassium, absent glucose metabolism, acidosis. CT scans confirmed massive brain damage incompatible with consciousness. Yet he continued speaking, thinking, remembering. Every test contradicted the evidence before our eyes. Stephen seemed aware of his impossible state. "Dr. Phillips, I understand this defies your medical training. I feel myself fading, but slowly. Whatever keeps me conscious is temporary. I need to help solve my murder before I lose this awareness. Marcus must be held accountable." His determination remained strong despite his obviously deteriorating physical condition. By 8 a.m., other staff members had gathered to witness the unprecedented case. Nurses, technicians, even administrators came to see the talking corpse. Word spread despite our attempts at containment. Stephen answered their questions patiently, seemingly understanding the scientific impossibility of his consciousness. He displayed no distress about his condition, only urgency about completing his testimony. Dr. James Mueller, our consulting neurologist, examined Stephen at 9:15 a.m. Jim had seen every form of brain injury, comatose patients, persistent vegetative states. Catherine, this man has suffered catastrophic brain trauma. The damaged tissue I'm observing should preclude any form of consciousness. Yet here he is, engaging in complex conversation. I have no medical explanation for what we're witnessing. Stephen's testimony helped police arrest 3 additional suspects by noon. He identified witnesses who could corroborate his business relationship with Marcus, provided account numbers for the embezzled funds, even described Marcus's girlfriend, who had unknowingly provided an alibi. Every detail proved accurate upon investigation. A dead man was solving his own murder with impossible precision. Throughout the day, Stephen's physical condition showed no improvement, yet his mental faculties remained sharp. We monitored him continuously, documenting every aspect of his impossible consciousness. His body temperature remained constant at 87 degrees, well below the threshold for brain function. No pulse, no measurable brain activity, yet perfect cognitive awareness. Media attention became unavoidable by afternoon. News vans surrounded the medical center despite our attempts at discretion. Hospital administration implemented lockdown protocols to protect patient privacy and maintain scientific integrity. I gave a carefully worded statement confirming unusual circumstances in an ongoing investigation while avoiding specific details that would sound fantastical. Dr. Patricia Wong, a consciousness researcher from University of Michigan, arrived at 2 p.m. to observe Stephen. Patricia had studied near-death experiences, cases of prolonged consciousness during cardiac arrest. Even her extensive research provided no framework for understanding Stephen's condition. This challenges fundamental assumptions about the relationship between brain function and conscious awareness, she noted. Stephen grew more philosophical as hours passed. Dr. Phillips, I'm grateful for this opportunity to help catch my killer, but I'm also curious about what happens next. Am I trapped between life and death? Will I eventually move on to whatever comes after? This consciousness feels different from when I was alive, more detached, yet somehow clearer. Laboratory results continued confirming death despite obvious consciousness. Cellular metabolism had ceased, tissue was beginning early decomposition changes, blood chemistry showed complete system shutdown. Yet Stephen continued thinking, speaking, even expressing emotions about his situation. The medical contradiction seemed absolute and inexplicable. By evening, Stephen's speech became slightly slower, though still coherent. I think my time is running short, Doctor. Whatever energy or force sustains my awareness is diminishing. I want to thank you for believing in what you witnessed, for helping ensure justice in my case. This has been an extraordinary experience for both of us. Detective Martinez returned with updates on the investigation. Marcus Williams had confessed after confronted with Stephen's detailed testimony. The embezzlement charges were confirmed. The murder weapon matched Stephen's injuries precisely. A case built on impossible evidence from a deceased victim had resulted in a complete prosecution package within 18 hours. At 8:47 p.m., exactly 24 hours after his initial time of death, Stephen's consciousness began fluctuating. His responses became intermittent, though still lucid when present. Dr. Phillips, he said during a clear moment, document everything about this case. Science needs to know that consciousness may persist beyond what we understand about death. This experience suggests something profound about human awareness. We maintained constant observation through the night. Stephen's periods of consciousness became briefer, but remained coherent. He expressed no fear about his fading awareness, only satisfaction that his murder would be solved. I feel peaceful, he whispered around midnight. Whatever kept me here is releasing me now. Thank you for your kindness during this impossible situation. At 3:17 a.m. on October 17th, 41 hours after his initial death, Stephen's consciousness ceased entirely. The transition was gradual. His responses became slower, then stopped, though his eyes remained open and aware until the final moment. When awareness finally left, It departed as mysteriously as it had persisted. The body returned to a normal state of death. Final autopsy findings confirmed massive trauma incompatible with consciousness. Brain tissue damage was extensive. Cellular death was complete. No medical explanation existed for the preceding 41 hours of awareness. I documented every observation meticulously, knowing the scientific community would scrutinize this case intensely. The medical evidence was indisputable yet utterly contradictory. Marcus Williams was convicted of first-degree murder based largely on Stephen's impossible testimony. The defense challenged the evidence's source, but forensic corroboration and Stephen's accurate details convinced the jury. A man had solved his own murder from beyond death, providing justice through scientifically impossible means. The conviction stood on appeal. Dr. Reeves and I published the case study 6 months later in the Journal of Forensic Medicine. The peer review process was rigorous. Multiple experts confirmed our documentation while struggling to explain the phenomenon. The paper became one of the most discussed forensic cases in recent medical literature. No satisfactory scientific explanation emerged. I received correspondence from physicians worldwide reporting similar cases, patients demonstrating consciousness despite clinical death, awareness persisting beyond measurable brain function. Most were brief, lasting minutes rather than hours. Stephen's case remained unique in its duration and clarity. A small but documented pattern of consciousness persisting beyond medical understanding was emerging. The experience fundamentally changed my approach to forensic pathology. I began documenting unusual observations more carefully, remaining open to phenomena that challenged established medical knowledge. Stephen's case taught me that human consciousness might operate beyond our current scientific framework. Death may not be the absolute boundary we assume. Emma Foster, Stephen's widow, visited me a year later. She thanked me for treating her husband with dignity during his impossible final hours, for ensuring his killer faced justice. Stephen always said consciousness was more than just brain activity, she shared. He studied philosophy, believed awareness might survive bodily death. Perhaps he proved his own theory. The case continues generating scientific interest. Consciousness researchers study my documentation, seeking clues about the nature of human awareness. Neurologists debate the implications for understanding brain function. Philosophers examine the metaphysical questions raised. Stephen's 41 hours of impossible consciousness sparked discussions across multiple disciplines. I still work as chief medical examiner, but Stephen's case haunts every examination. When I encounter victims of traumatic death, I wonder about their continued awareness, their possible consciousness existing beyond measurable signs of life. I document unusual observations more carefully, remain alert for phenomena that challenge medical orthodoxy. Hospital security footage from Stephen's case disappeared mysteriously 3 weeks after the incident. Administrative records showed no deletion authorization, no staff access to the files. The disappearance felt deliberate, as if some force wanted to limit evidence of what occurred. Only my detailed written documentation remained to verify the impossible events. 5 years later, I received an envelope with no return address containing a single photograph. Stephen Foster, clearly alive and healthy, standing next to Emma in what appeared to be a recent image. No note, no explanation, just the impossible photograph. I had it analyzed by forensic experts. It showed no signs of digital manipulation or photographic trickery. The photograph raised new questions about Stephen's case. Had he somehow recovered from death? Was his consciousness transferred to another form? The image suggested possibilities beyond my scientific understanding. I showed it to Emma, who confirmed it resembled her husband, but insisted he had been buried 5 years earlier after our final examination. Research into consciousness and death has expanded significantly since Stephen's case. Scientists study near-death experiences more seriously, investigate reports of awareness during clinical death, explore the possibility that consciousness operates independently of brain function. Stephen's 41 hours of impossible awareness helped legitimize previously dismissed phenomena. I often wonder about Stephen's final moments of consciousness, what he experienced as awareness faded. Did he transition to another form of existence? Was his persistence simply delayed cellular shutdown? The questions remain unanswered despite years of reflection. Some mysteries may exceed human understanding. Young medical students frequently ask about Stephen's case during lectures. I present the facts objectively while acknowledging the scientific impossibility of what occurred. The case serves as a reminder that medicine, despite remarkable advances, cannot explain all aspects of human existence. Consciousness remains one of science's greatest mysteries. The Detroit medical community created new protocols for unusual cases following Stephen's situation. Staff members received training on documenting anomalous observations, maintaining scientific objectivity while remaining open to unexplained phenomena. Stephen's case established precedent for investigating impossible medical situations systematically. I retired from active forensic pathology last year, but continue researching consciousness phenomena. Stephen's case launched a second career studying the boundaries between life and death. The man who sat up during autopsy changed not only my scientific perspective, but my entire understanding of human existence and the mysteries beyond medical knowledge. Recently, other medical professionals have shared similar experiences privately, patients demonstrating awareness despite clinical death, consciousness persisting beyond brain function, impossible recoveries from traumatic injuries. A quiet network of physicians documents these cases, building evidence for phenomena beyond current scientific explanation. The Stephen Foster case remains my most significant professional experience. 16 years of forensic pathology provided no preparation for impossible consciousness persisting beyond death. The case taught me humility about medical knowledge, opened my mind to mysteries beyond scientific understanding, and demonstrated that death might not represent the absolute boundary we assume. I keep Stephen's final written statement in my desk drawer, his signature on testimony given 40 hours after medical death. Physical evidence of impossible consciousness, proof that human awareness operates beyond our current understanding. The case files remain sealed, but the memory persists. Some truths transcend scientific explanation, existing in the mysterious boundary between life and death. Today, practicing physicians contact me regularly about unusual cases involving consciousness and death. Stephen's documented experience provides framework for investigating similar phenomena. While science cannot yet explain such occurrences, careful documentation builds evidence for consciousness existing beyond conventional medical boundaries. The impossible continues challenging our understanding of human existence. The mystery of Stephen Foster's 41 hours of impossible consciousness remains unsolved. Despite extensive medical documentation, laboratory evidence, and witness testimony, no scientific explanation accounts for his awareness following traumatic death. The case stands as testament to the limitations of medical knowledge and the profound mysteries surrounding human consciousness and death.